and you lose yourself. Good morning, good morning. So I've decided this morning that I've got a deep desire to have my knees deep in the water somewhere. It's been a long, long time. Well, I got 2 chats already. Good morning, good morning. Let's see what they say. Me song. Nice. Okay. Happy Friday. Do you realize the first week of 2021 is gone? And what question do you think I'm going to ask? Come on, guys, interact with me. How many of you have found at least one qualified appointment this week? Karma, you're on spot. Good morning, Charney. Me? Oh, yes. Lauren did. Charney did. Triple happy faces. Molly did. Have 2 new listings going live next week. Oh my gosh, that's awesome. Tenley did. Sandra did. Oh, Sandra says good morning. Oh, I love the interaction. This is fantastic. Load the chat. Okay, so it's not over. This is the first week of 2021, and we set the intention. The camera looks weird. Set the intention to find 1 appointment each week. Now, this is where it gets difficult, because if you don't find one this week, you got to find 2. Sandy did, Dick did, 2 listings and 2 contracts. Dick, you are on fire. Maritza did, Jamie did. Oh, you guys are just bum, 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 bum. Lauren has a good point. If you all want to see all the chats, when you send your message, it says to all panelists. If you click that caret, it'll say to all panelists and attendees, and then everybody will see your chat. And if you only want me to see your chat, which I'll probably call out anyway, then just do panelists, but you have the power to do that. Kalani had 2 last week. Andrea says, done, 1 listing, working on a contract. Awesome. Could everyone, yes, 1 appointment. I want to make sure I call it. I'm so glad I'm back to work and made it through my first week. Yes. Congratulations, Wepa. That's fantastic. Angela, good morning. All panelists. The names are disappearing here. Angela Moore, I had my first closing 2 days ago. Congratulations to you. Diane Kokorian, yes, 1 and 1. That means 1 listing, 1 sale. Meeting a seller on Sunday for an upcoming listing. You know what I did yesterday? I'll tell you in a second. Lee, good morning. So there's a piece of property in Apollo Beach that I've been working on with the owners. They've owned it for 30 years, and I've been working with them for 20 years, literally 20 years. One of the owners lives in England. He flies into Florida. He's got a place in Madeira Beach. And he literally comes to meet with me at least twice a year for the last 20 years. And I would give them market updates. And it is a spectacular piece of property. So we had a Zoom meeting yesterday, and me and 4 of the partners, they just basically grilled me for an hour and a half. And I'm in competition with a guy named Bill Eichenbaugh, who's known as the Dirt Dog. And he's a very, very successful land broker. And they're trying to choose between me and him and some other company. They got 2 more meetings next week, and I went first, and I wish I went last, because one of the guys on the call said, okay, this guy's smart enough, let's just go with him, because they don't want to have any more meetings. But if that happens, it's going to be a world-class piece of property, and we'll see how it goes. But that's it. So I found my 1 qualified appointment this week, and I'll be doing that next week too. So fingers crossed on that one. That'll be a big feather in our cap. It's a big, big deal. Okay, today, make sure I got all the things. Today is contract day, master the contract day, and I've got 2 things I want to review with you. And, you know, in my true form, it's just like I say, you know, if you're going to do it right. And who's to say what's right and what's not right? But I'm the broker, and my job is to come up with the best things for you to do. And there's 2 things that we've created as a company that kind of make us stand out from the rest. And these are the 2 things I want to cover today. And one of them is the contract intake form. And I get it. You know, I mean, the amount of contracts I've written over my career, I don't have to think much about it. but we all, and this is just normal, get nervous at times because we're under pressure. And it's easy to forget certain things. And even my top agents, I mean, no, she's not on. I can talk about her. Even Aixa makes mistakes. And under pressure, I can't believe I did that. So what if we had a way, like a checklist, if you will, to make sure that you slow down, pause and reflect, and get everything done the way you need it to be done? So this checklist was created because, I have a belief that if you don't have an assistant, you are the assistant. And most of you guys realize 25% of our producing agents are at masters and above. That is incredible. We're out producing the MLS by 2-to-1 as far as average per person production. And we are just doing a lot. And when you're doing a lot, it's easy to forget things. So you really should consider hiring a transaction coordinator to manage your stuff for you so you can be freed up. And what is a couple $100? Get out of the penny wise and dollar foolish mentality. For a couple $100, you get somebody to manage your stuff, and they got to be good, and you got to watch them. But it's just anyway. That's why this form was created. So we're going to share my screen, and we're going to jump into that right now. Sandy's hand is up. All right. Good. Let me check for one more person. HIJ 2K. Cool. All right. So this is a Beggins exclusive, if you will. We like to do things like that because we provide processes and systems to make you more effective, because the more effective you are, the better we do as a company. So, we're like aligned like that. So let's jump right in. And I think I can get this done in 40 minutes or less so you can get some extra prospecting time in. Zach Brown, knee deep in the water somewhere. .loop. Let's see which one. Oops. Come on, bar, move out of the way. All right. So in .loop, which, I want you all to master because it's really an awesome process. Today, we're going to talk about the contract intake form. And what this is, what's designed for, you're busy, you're with your customer, and I know you're having fun and all that type of stuff. So you take a break and you go to McDonald's or Starbucks or someplace like that. And so let me ask you some questions as you're crafting the offer. And this was designed to say, I'm going to fill out this form. I'm going to share it with my transaction coordinator who's going to create my loop and do the contract for me, which would be just a nice way to live, wouldn't it? So I'm not going to read all this. Property address, city, zip code, MLS number. These are the things you got to stop and pause about. Please pay attention. Included, excluded items. Go to the MLS, see what the realtor remarks say, see what the MLS inclusions say, and then have a conversation with the consumer and say, these things, I have questions all the time on this. A very experienced agent called me last week. Are the blinds and drapes included? Well, if you read the contract, it says blinds and drapes are included. And this was the day before closing and the blinds and drapes were gone. What do you do? I mean, shit like this happens and you have to deal with it, right? But the contract governs all. What does the preamble to the Code of Ethics say? What does it say? It's under all lays the land, right? And that's what we're dealing with. Under all lays the contract, addresses everything we need to address. Included items, excluded items, pay special attention to that. Purchase price, we know what that's going to be. Except for today, I hope you guys are using the escalation clause, because everything I'm still seeing is multiple offers. And your escalation clause will help you. I don't think that's addressed in this form, though. I probably should update that. These are things for you to think through. An initial deposit is a part of your negotiation strategy. Make it good. I was helping an agent yesterday with an offer, $1,250,000 house, $1,240,000 offer with a $30,000 deposit, cash. Can't believe how much cash there is out there right now, right? A $30,000 deposit is meaningful, right? On a $1,250,000 house, I would still follow that up with the next line, an additional deposit of something else. If you're paying $1,240,000 in cash and you got $30,000 up, that's like, $3,000 on a $124,000 house. So get an additional deposit of $70,000, get $100,000 up on this $100,250,000 house. Have the courage to say that. We are the professionals. We want to get our offer accepted. And this seller countered that $1,250,000 price with a $1,240,000 offer. And the $1,240,000 offer included, excuse me, the buyer paying the title insurance, which is like $6,000. So it was $4,000 off asking price. And the seller's super difficult. Anyway, long story short. Escrow company name, we need that because we want the contract to be filled out properly. And I'm seeing a lot in the MLS now that the listing broker is telling you which title company the seller wants to use, which is fine. But how do we counter that? In .loop, in our clauses section, you can say, check the contract box on the contract that says seller selects title. And then in the additional clause, you put seller agrees to select Paramount Title. And this way we cover everything because then the contract governs all. Oh, I lost my chat box. Typically in Hillsborough and Pinellas County, seller pays title. In Manatee and Sarasota, wow. Yeah, seller pick, seller pay is the easiest, but many times the buyer pays in the other counties. Lost out on an offer with an escalation clause, $30,000 escrow, half the money down on a 550 home, and the letter from the buyer market is insane. Yes, Lauren, wow, that's crazy. I wonder what beat you, because that's a pretty strong offer. Susie, what if the seller already selected a specific title company in the realtor remarks of MLS? Once again, this is important just to get the concept down. The contract is an agreement between the buyer and the seller. The MLS is an agreement between the brokers. Now, if the MLS says that the seller wants to use XYZ title and you come in and want to use Paramount Title, you might be weakening your buyer's position. But typically the seller doesn't give a hoot which title company they use. It's usually the agent or the broker that owns the title company wants you to use that one like we do. So it's possible, if it really is important to the seller to use that title company, you could weaken your position by requesting to use ours. It depends on how committed you are to the process. Now, if you're working well with Misty and the Paramount Title crew, I would suggest that you use them most when you can. If not, it really doesn't matter because, if you get clear title, you get clear title, and you get title insurance, you're covered. So, all right. And just know the escrow company and the title company are different, can be different. Now, we don't want it to be different. As a courtesy to Beggins Enterprises, as the broker, we don't want to hold escrow because it's a pain in the butt. So Paramount will hold our escrow, which is great, but they don't want to hold your escrow if they're not doing the closing. So if you know that Paramount's not doing the closing, then give the escrow to the closing agent who's doing the closing, rather than making us be an escrow agent and then release it to another company when it goes to close. Time and date for acceptance is big. And this is a strategy you have to communicate with somebody. And really the best way to do this is to have a conversation. I know you hate it when I say this. Have a conversation with the listing broker and say, what is the seller's position? Are they home? Are they in town? Are they on vacation? Is it unreasonable to expect an answer within 24 hours? Because if you give them too long, you're giving the listing agent the opportunity to shop your offer against other offers. And if you give it too fast and the seller's not in a position to answer quickly, then your offer is going to die. It's going to vaporize because it rescinds on the time for acceptance date if it passes. So there's a balance between those two that you got to kind of think through. And that's why I like this form, because it just makes you pause and reflect. Closing date is a strategy. Once again, in today's market, your ability to build rapport with the listing agent is paramount to your ability to get your deal accepted. So if I was the listing agent and you were the buyer's agent, you called me and said, hey, Craig, I've got some really interested people. Tell me about the deal. When would your sellers ideally like to close? Are they in town, out of town, all that stuff? And if I find out they ideally like to close in 60 days, Aix and I were working on this deal, and the sellers, this is the one I was talking about, 1,240,000 offer, 1,250,000 buyer pays title, and they countered. But what's important to the sellers, they want 60 days to move. So they knew that, and the contract came in with a 60-day to close date. Right? That's smart, because you come in and you assume the seller wants to close ASAP, and you put in a 15 or 20-day closing with a cash deal. That's not good for the seller. This is all about communication. So the closing date is a strategy, and the strategy is played out when you talk with the listing agent. Is the property leased? End of lease date? Not relevant most of the time, but if it is, it is. Financing type, conventional, FHA, just fill in the box. Home warranty. Come on, guys. Offer a home warranty, and don't make it just a pass off item. Here's a warranty. You can do it if you want to. A home warranty is valuable, and I know we'll get chats on this. Lots of agents are getting their clients really big savings because they bought a home warranty and something failed on the property. It just happens. So don't just bluff it off. I don't care if they buy it or not. It really doesn't make a difference. But if they do, make them know. I talked about this at the meeting yesterday. Let them know, follow the rules. If you buy a warranty, you have to get the home warranty company's approval before you fix anything, right? Repair limits is for a regular contract, not relevant to an as is, but I happen to like the regular contract. I personally prefer a dollar amount here. $500 for each one was probably relevant, because if it exceeds that limit, either party can cancel, then either party can pay the difference, which holds deals together. And someday y'all understand that when I say it. The inspection period days. I'm seeing a lot of lately 15-day inspection periods, which I don't understand. Are the inspectors that busy they can't get out? Generally speaking, the longer the inspection periods. And I'd also have a conversation with I just lost my thought because a chat came in. With the seller, that the inspection period, you don't have a contract on an as-is contract until the inspection period passes. Can we just agree to that right now? You don't have a contract until the inspection period passes on an as-is contract. Buyer can walk for any reason, and there's just so many ways a buyer can sneak out and cut themselves away from a contract like that. So the shorter the inspection period, the better it is. And have a conversation with the seller. You don't have a contract until this period ends. I mean, you have a contract, but it's not valid, not enforceable. How did you get this lead? It's just something that goes into the database that will track and help you later. Additional items. This is, I really should highlight these or bold them or something, because these are the conversation points that you say. What else would you like? You know, talk about the pool equipment, talk about the patio furniture, talk about the stuff that you might be able to get your buyer, right? That they want. And then finally, on the contract intake form is the addendums to be included. So is there an HOA? Is there a contingency on a home sale? Whatever contract addendum you want is what you're going to put in there. Now, again, this was designed to have you submit this to your transaction coordinator, and then you go have a drink and they create your loop and do everything perfectly for you. And then they send it off for signature to your client. And you're done. This is for you. This is you creating a checklist for your assistant to create your loop and do everything perfect for you. And then you just send it out for signature while you're having your margarita with your toes in the sand. Little Zach Brown reference for you there. Let's see, 4 chats. I don't know how to find the chats when I'm in full screen. Maybe just, no, there we go. Let's see. Inspectors are busy and many buyers are just out of town. Oh, good point. Yeah, that's saying. So they're saying now that, you know, up to 50% of all offers can be sight unseen. And then you got travel delays and all the other stuff to get buyers in to see the house. So, but once again, if I'm listing agent, you're giving me a 15-day inspection period. on an as-is contract, I ain't liking that. I'm going to say, get your ass on a plane now, because my asset is important to me. I always do a 7-day. You could always extend it, need it. Yes, correct. Everything's extendable. How did you get this lead? It goes on the deal sheet so accounting can pay you correctly. Thank you, Chrissy. Good point. Angela says, next time, Chrissy, I'll send this form. Good. Where was this contract intake form in templates? Just go to templates, go to all forms and type in intake and it'll pop right up. Where am I? Okay. All right. So that's it. This is for you to organize your, remember, you are, if you don't have an assistant, you are the assistant. No discount. If you're only doing a couple deals a month, you can handle it. If you want to do more, or if you're a prima donna and you want somebody to help you do things, then this is a great way to do that. Yeah. I changed my protein powder in my shake and it's making me, I must have, I don't know, dairy or something. Representing seller, buyer, as is, regular contract, seller name, buyer name, email, phone number, all that stuff. Boom, boom, boom. This is it. So if you're new to the business, don't fret over a contract. This is all you got to know. This is all you got to know. That little stuff is all you need to fill in a contract. So please don't fret over the easy stuff. What you got to do is take your time and slow down and go, oh, additional included items, excluded items. This is where we get burnt. These two, I wish I could highlight them right now. Included items, excluded items, addenda to be included, and any additional terms. You might want to put in here, tell your assistant to get you the escalation clause. And then of course you have to tell them what to put in it. And then, you know, you don't get escaped because you have a transaction coordinator. You, need to review the document and make sure you know what's going on. Like, it's still your deal. Just because somebody's helping with you doesn't mean you just escape accountability. Cool. All right. Wow. Great attendance on a Friday. One more here. Oh, good. Thank you, Nancy. I can't believe, Nancy, you don't know where this form is. Because you pay attention a lot and you do a great job. Cool. All right. So that's form 1, 23 minutes. Yep, we're going to get form 2 done now. Here we go. Critical date timeline. This will elevate you to professional status. I'll give you a long story, very short. We sold the Mirror Bay property as an assemblage with 10 different owners. And I was a kid. It was 1998. So it was 23 years ago. And, we had 10 different sellers, 700 acres of land, and every seller had an attorney. And one attorney, after we executed the contract, wrote me a letter. We didn't have email then, we had letters. And it said, "Dear Mr. Beggins, pursuant to the contract, please acknowledge your agreement that the effective date is here and the first extension right is here," and blah, 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 all that stuff. Man, this guy's good. And then at that point, I said, why don't we do that for our contracts? "Dear Mr. Cooperating Broker, dear Mr. Buyer, Mr. Seller, pursuant to the contract, this is what we agree to. Basically, here is your responsibilities. We're going to hold your feet to the fire, MF. We have a contract. We're taking this seriously. You're expected to do these things by this time. And if not, you're in default." Wow. I mean, I don't want to make it a mean situation at all, but that's what we're talking about. So I'm going to bring up, there's one for the FAR Bar 5 and there's one for the FAR Bar 5 as is. The as is much simpler because there's no responsibilities on the seller to get inspections or estimates and all that stuff. But I'm going to go through the FAR Bar regular one because it's more complicated, but it's still an easy, simple process. What is happening? There we go. Good. All right. So this form should be all the shoulds I'm giving you today. If I were you, and I have nothing but your best interest in mind, I would make this a critical part of my business. Every time you get a contract, I don't care, have a glass of wine, take 5 minutes and fill out this form. And it's so simple because it says line 159. Now, if you're doing the as-is contract, you better use the as-is form because line 159 on the as-is is not line 159 on the regular. All right, but we did that for you. Fill in the blanks: seller, buyer, property address, listing agent, selling agent, boom, 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 boom. Effective date. Nowhere in the contract does it say where the effective date is. Now, with the advent of .loop, we can pretty much easily identify the last date upon which the party signed and or initialed the change. But we have to study that. We have to look and see when the last change was made, and that will be the effective date. But call it out. Now, I'm not saying we're going to get in a lawsuit or anything, but if we ever had to argue about when the effective date is, and you, the shining Century 21 Beggins agent, produce a document that you shared with all parties, calling the effective date December 8th, in the absence of something else, who wins? You do. If we ever get in front of a judge, which we'll never get in front of a judge, but the preponderance of evidence is going to fall on your side if you communicate it like this. The expected closing date, notice I said expected. There's a reason for that. Deposit due is a critical date. Additional deposit due is a critical date. The inspection period ends is a critical date. The loan application due date is a critical date, and the loan approval date is a critical date. That's it. Those are the 2, 4, 6, 7 things that are critical for you to monitor in this contract. So what I would do is have you or your transaction coordinator calendar these items with a 24 or 48 hour alert before them canceling. Hey, the additional deposit is due on December 12th. Well, then put a reminder, put it on your calendar, additional deposit due on 123 Any Street on the 12th, and set a reminder for 24 hours before so it pings your phone, like your phone doesn't ping enough. And then you make a text or a phone call to the buyer and say, hey, reminder, your deposit's due today, so wire it, right? Or do Paramount program payload and go in and send it through the email or through the website. All right, so that's it. Critical date, 7 things. We're fretting over all this crap, and there's only 7 dates that are really critical. Shut that down. Where are my chats coming? Devonna, can we get the auto timeline updated? Devonna, what does that mean? Auto timeline. Auto timeline. Critical date timeline. Does it need to be updated? I thought I did that. Okay. So that's it. Critical dates. That's it. When we just, if you break it down, there's not that much to worry about except for those things, but those things are really important. And then for the benefit of the parties, and buyers and sellers create their own rules sometimes because they're ignorant. And I don't mean that in a negative way, but we have to tell them what their obligations are. They don't know. We do this every day. They do it every 7 to 10 years, right? So this is just a checklist for them because all a contract does, it gives the buyer the right to buy and a seller the obligation to sell. That's what it does. And it's enforceable because it's in writing based on the statute of frauds in Florida. So let's share what the obligations are of each party. And then let's tell them the truth, because they're moving their lives. And, we take this for granted because we're not in this situation, but you all know when you sell your house, it sucks. There's nothing good about it. And stuff happens. So let's call it out and let them know there are potential closing delays in this transaction. So this is just a checklist for you to make your customer think you're a rock star because you've got it all covered. And all you got to do is fill out this form and send it to them. So seller's obligations. If I was a seller and you sent me this form and said seller's obligations, what am I going to do? I'm going to read it. So contract sent to title company and submit for review in .loop. That's just a reminder for you to make sure you submit for .loop. There's no line number, nothing to do there. But put a date when you did it, although .loop tracks it all. Line 159, deliver the title commitment to the buyer at least 15 days prior to closing. That's the seller's obligation. Contract is between the buyer and the seller. If the seller doesn't deliver the title commitment to the buyer 15 days prior to closing, then guess what? The buyer gets an automatic 3-day extension. Line 163, the seller has to deliver the existing title policy to the buyer within 5 days of the effective date of the contract. Did you know that? That's an obligation in the contract. If the seller has their current title policy, they're supposed to deliver it to the buyer within 5 days. Why? So the buyer can share it with a new title company so they can get a reissue credit or whatever they want. But that's it. So if you are at a listing appointment and you know the contract and you know the contract has the seller have an obligation to deliver their existing title policy, what should you do? Get a copy of their title policy at your listing appointment and put it in MLS as an attachment. Or at least put it in .loop so you can share it with them later. If the seller has a survey, the seller needs to deliver the survey to the buyer within 5 days of the effective date. I'm not making this shit up. It's in the contract, black and white. The seller is supposed to give their copy of their survey to the buyer. You are representing the seller. You need to tell the seller what their obligations are. And this form will help you do that and then look like a rock star. Line 293, provide estimated cost of repairs to buyer for WDO repairs and permits. That's not in the as-is contract. So strike those 3 lines and those the next 4 lines for the as-is. There's only 4 things for a seller to do in an as-is contract, but there's 8 things for a seller to do in a regular contract, which means the buyer does their inspection, they report back their deficiencies, the seller gets estimates. If the estimates exceed the repair limit, then either party can cancel or either party can pay the difference, right? That's the difference between the 2 contracts, really. So it's got a little more obligations on the seller. And then buyer, what does the buyer got to do? Tell them, make your initial escrow deposit. Go to payload and click a button, send the money, or get a check and drive it to the office, or go to the bank and spend $40 for a wire transfer, right? But make your initial escrow deposit. Make the additional deposit per contract within 10, if it's left blank. So I filled in what the contract calls for, but if you put in 3 days or whatever, my suggestion there, additional deposit comes the day after the inspection period ends. So inspection period ends on December 15th, make the additional deposit due on December 16th, and then tell the seller, celebrate, you've got a contract now. Line 184, buyer may at buyer's expense obtain a survey on or before the title insurance deadline. Guys, penny wise, dollar foolish. There's no reason for a buyer not to get a survey unless they're literally VA with no cash in the bank. Get a survey. At some point, you're going to want to put a fence in the yard. At some point, you want to make sure the neighbor's landscape curbing isn't on your property. Get a survey. If you want to put a pool in later, you're going to need a survey, right? So get a survey. 224, option to terminate due to flood insurance. Oh, why would we call that out? Because we're an agent of the buyer, for God's sakes. Or we're going to tell the seller, hey, if you have a flood insurance out, the contract gives you an automatic 20-day cancellation period. I'm not making this stuff up. It's all on the contract, and we just initial, tap, the screen. Nobody reads the contract anymore. Don't lie. When was the last time you read your car lease or your car auto loan? You didn't. You trust the agent you're working with. So this is making you trustworthy because you're telling them the important things, and I did it for you. Line 261, buyer to conduct a home inspection at buyer's expense. Yes, do that. What's the date for your inspection period? Provide required repairs to seller. This is for the as not relevant to the as is contract because the seller has no right to do, no obligation to do repairs in the as is. Same thing with line 312. Same thing for line 333. Submit permit inspection results to seller within the inspection period. Not relevant in the as is contract. You're on your own. As is as is. You're buying a pig in a poke. You do your inspections and you close or you don't. Walkthrough inspection is relevant for all contracts the day before or the day of closing. Examine title evidence 5 days after receipt from the title company. May extend closing. I called that out because if the seller up here didn't deliver the title policy to the buyer, title commitment to the buyer at least 15 days prior to closing, then the buyer can extend closing up to 5 period to review the title, which no buyer ever does because nobody reads their title docs. Advise seller of survey defects within 5 days from receipt from the seller or surveyor if buyer ordered it. So if there's something wrong with the survey and you need the seller to fix it, I'll tell you right now, my neighbor down here got a house. The guy that owned the house bought the lot next door. And he was an electrician. He fenced it in, a beautiful fence with little globe lights in the corner post of each fence. It was beautiful. Then he landscaped it. And over time, he extended his paver patios and his landscape curbing. Well, he sold the house and he sold the lot, made the lot available separately. Well, the house sold and lo and behold, he built over into the lot next door. So what the guy who bought the house has to deal with, his stuff's going to be torn up when somebody buys the lot because it's not on his property. And a survey would show that. And I didn't sell the house or we didn't sell the house. So I don't know what they know, but I'm telling you right now, it's very clear that there is encroachments on that property and a survey would show that. So in an as-is contract, it's as is. If there's survey defects, you buy in it with the survey defects. So you better figure it out during your inspection period. In the regular contract, the seller has to repair it. And then line 54. Okay, these are the potential closing dates. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 2, 4, 5, 2, 4, yeah, 5. Potential closing dates, delays built into the contract. The CFPB is the 3-day closing, CD closing disclosure has to be out 3 days prior to closing. If that doesn't happen, it's an automatic extension up to 10 days. So, and that happens still. And it's a nice little thing to know if you're trying to, negotiate something because you have that right. Hey, lender, don't send the CD out yet. Hint, hint. I'm not being devious. I'm just telling you the contract's written and you have to know what it says. Hey, lender, don't send out the CD yet. I need an extension for a couple of days. Automatic 3 up to 10 day extension. Line 58, up to 7 days after, if there's a force majeure issue and utilities are disrupted. I mean, this happens to us during the summertime when there's storms, hurricanes, and if power's out, the contract addresses it. Not that it happens very often, but it does. It can. Line 11, seller may cancel within 3 days of loan approval expiration date if buyer notice not received. That's so important. I think we all in our busy lives forget that this contract is powerful, man. If you know it, you just, you didn't give me loan approval on December 20th. I can cancel you on December 22nd because I've got 3 days. If you don't cancel on the loan approval period date, then you're waiving your financing contingency, which is fine. You waive your financing contingency. If you fail to close, I'm going to keep your deposit. If all goes through and we all happily sign the documents and all that crap. But I have to honor the closing date of that contract. So if your loan approval period, which I recommend to be 10 days prior to closing, because you really know you got to deal with loan approval period when the buyer says, hey, I waived my financing contingency, I'm going to close. But if I don't give you acknowledgement that I'm waiving my loan approval period, then yes, I waive my financing contingency, but I got to wait till the closing date before I can do anything. So it might be in my best interest to say, I'm going to cancel you, get your deposit back, but I'm going back on the market because I want to buy her now. And I'm not saying which is right. We're going to weigh the options on these two things and see which is better for our seller based on the situation that we're in. But knowledge is power in this case. Line 346, up to 10 days if seller fails to close open or expired permits. That's only relevant for the regular contract, not the as is, because the seller has no obligation to deal with permits in the as is contract. And then line 463, up to 5 days if seller fails to deliver title commitment to buyer prior to closing. So back up here, it said seller has to deliver title commitment within 15 days of closing. If not, and that's paragraph 8A is checked. 8A is, I don't remember right now. But anyway, title commitment to buyer, you get an automatic 5-day extension. So just keep that in your pocket in case you got a jerky seller who refused to give you an extension. Go back to your ninja contract knowledge and say, did you deliver me title evidence within 15 days of closing? Oh, you didn't? Gotcha. I got a 5-day extension, MF. Got it? Ooh, look at that. I said 40 minutes. I did in 42. That's pretty good. Very cool. All right, let's see. I think she means all timelines. Oh, no, we can't because you fill those in. No, it can't be automatic because it's subjective to manual input. There is an automatic timeline that calculates the dates for you. I'd like to know what that is, Devon, if you'd send it to me. Cool. All right. Guys, that's what I had for Master the Contracts Fridays. I hope you take some of this to heart and say, hey, this is really, it's not complicated, but it's good. It's an extra step. But let's face it, we're only writing a deal a week. Most of us aren't even writing a deal a week. So let's do, spend an extra, I spent 42 minutes with you on 2 documents that you will spend 4 minutes on, right? Correct. Anyway, so that's it. So today is Friday, January 8th of 2021. Congratulations. I'm proud of all of you who made your first, got your first appointment, qualified appointment for the week. And if you didn't, you still got tomorrow and Sunday. And then we start again on Monday and we're going to go again and again and again and again. Cool. Anyway, happy Friday. Thank you for your attention. Guys, we have over 80 people online today. That's just awesome. So enjoy it. One more chat. Thank you, Nancy. Okay. All done. Bye, guys.